The Little Book of Sleep. Written by Estelle Morrison. This is a story about a boy named Lee. Lee was a lot like you and me. He was very, very busy. There were many things for him to do on any given day. He had food to eat, homework to finish, balls to bounce, friends to play with, books to read, and a mess to make. In fact, there were so many things to do, there were not enough hours in a day to get them all done. Bedtime was the worst time of day. It meant that he had to stop eating, working, bouncing, playing, reading, and messing. Sometimes, just before bedtime, Lee would eat the dessert he had saved from diner. He likes the way chocolate tasted when it became warm and soft from sitting in his pocket. His parents thought eating would make him sleepy. Sometimes, just before bedtime, Lee would run as fast as he could, round and round in circles chasing his cat. His parents thought that exercise would make him tired. Sometimes, just before bedtime, Lee would watch TV. His parents thought that the all-night cartoon channel would bore him to sleep. And sometimes, his parents would put him to bed right after dinner, hoping he would just nod off. When they ran out of things to try, Lee's parents put him in his bed with his video games, stuffed frog, toy robot, and action figure. They turned on his 3 lava lamps, his spinning glow-in-the-dark plastic thingamajig, and his musical snail that sang "Who Let the Dogs Out," hoping they would help Lee fall asleep. But none of these things, not one of these things, helped Lee go to sleep. So night after night, his parents would put him in his bed and wait. Wait for him to stop talking. Wait for him to stop playing. Wait for him to stop bouncing. Wait for him to stop eating. Wait for him to stop reading. Wait for him to stop staring at the ceiling, eyes wide open. They waited and waited and waited. Then they gave up and went to bed. But not Lee. Lee's mind was very, very busy. He worried about his spelling test. He wondered why Mrs. Dottie has giant spaces between her teeth. Why weekends are only 2 days long, and if frogs could survive global warming. When Lee finally fell asleep, it was long past his bedtime. In the morning, when it was time to wake up, Lee was in a deep, deep sleep. He was so deeply asleep that his eyelids were stuck together. He was so deeply asleep that his mouth was open and drool spilled onto his pillow. He was so deeply asleep that wild birds screeching near his window sounded like a quiet lullaby. He was so deeply asleep that when his parents yelled "Lee, Lee, Lee" and shook his shoulders, they just rocked him into a deeper sleep. At breakfast, Lee was a dragon. A fire-breathing dragon. Fire spit out of his mouth when asked what he wanted for breakfast. Fire spit out of his mouth when told to eat his toast. Fire spit out of his mouth when he heard the words "hurry up." He stared straight ahead, at nothing, with a low growl coming out of his fire-breathing mouth. His parents also sleep-cheated, tried to get ready for the day. They got up from their chairs and bumped into each other. They spilled their 4th cup of coffee on the floor. They forgot to put their shoes on. They stepped on the cat. And they couldn't find their keys. At school, Lee was cranky. His teacher sent him to the cranky. He had to sit there until he was no longer cranky. Someone scratched his name permanently on the back of the chair. Then one day, Lee's parents had an idea. Since everything they had tried to get Lee to sleep had not worked, they decided to do the opposite. All sugar was to be eaten before 6 o'clock p.m., especially chocolate. All cat chasing, bed jumping, ball bouncing exercise would take place before dinner. All lava lamps, video games, action figures, spinning glow-in-the-dark thingamajigs, electronic snails, and other exciting, noisy items were to be stored in the closet, only allowed out during daytime hours. There would be no TV before bed, unless it was terribly, terribly boring like the Shopping Channel or the Weather Network. Instead, there was a warm, soothing bath, a bedtime story, a kiss, and lights out. All by the same time every single night. Even weekends. Bed was only for sleep, Al thought cuddling was allowed. And Lee's parents gave him a very special book. It was called Lee's Book of Worries. Every day after school he would think about all of the things he was worried about. He would write them all down in his book. And he could talk about each one with his parents, and when he was no longer wondering and worrying about something, he would cross it out. And guess what? Lee slept. Not the first night. Not even the second night. But definitely by the third. And every night after. And although he was still very, very busy, he was no longer busy at night. And very soon after that, everything changed. He was kind to his cat. He used a fork and spoon. He said thank you. He learned how to spell celebration. And he loved his parents and bedtime.